EMI shield, which is held with 2 Phillips head screws. This EMI shield also holds down the dock connector cable. Once you've removed the screws, you can gently pry up the EMI connector and then pry the cable loose. You'll notice the cable is also held with an adhesive down the length of the cable, which you'll have to gently peel up and simply fold over to the side. Once we've folded the cable over to the side, you'll notice this is the antenna cable. You'll want to loosen that from the dock connector, speaker assembly, and the logic board. Then you'll want to remove the 1 Phillips head screw at the base of the logic board. One thing you will notice is at the base of the speaker assembly there's another screw, which we will remove. And you'll also notice that there are several small teeth, there should be 4 in total, which appear to ground out the antenna against the base of the midboard frame. There's one here, 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 and at the top. Next, we're going to remove the moisture sensor from the middle of the logic board. You want to gently pry this sensor up. You'll see that it's a small sticker. The way this appears to work is there is a white coating that will dissolve upon exposure to moisture, which will reveal the red dot below. Next, we're going to remove the Phillips head screw underneath, and then we will focus on the upper EMI shield. This shield is held in place by 5 Phillips head screws. You'll notice that the 2 screws lined up next to the camera are the smallest of the screws. The very center screw at the top is the longest of the screws, and the 2 outside screws are medium-sized in comparison to the 2. Next, we'll gently lift and slide the EMI shield out, and you'll notice there's some small hooks that hold it in place. So I make sure to push forward to lift that out. Once the EMI shield is removed, you'll notice there is another screw that holds the logic board in place. And inside of that screw is a socket for one of the EMI screws. Next, we're going to remove the 3 connectors that control the earpiece speaker, the front-facing camera, and the volume rocker hold switch assembly. After that, we'll remove the digitizer cable and then the LCD cable. Now we're ready to remove the rear-facing 5-megapixel camera. The ribbon cable that holds it in place is located directly below the cable and can be simply pried up gently. Once it has been pried up, it can be simply lifted out of its socket, and you'll see the flash assembly and camera are in this small unit. Now, we're ready to remove the logic board. This can simply be lifted up and pulled down to remove out of place. Next, lift up on the speaker assembly, and it will also be removed. You'll notice that you can see the 4 teeth that we spoke about earlier right here. Now we are almost ready to remove the LCD and digitizer assembly. You'll notice a series of 10 screws located along the edge of the iPhone, 3 along each side and 4 in the corners. The three larger screws also have a small washer that help hold the LCD in place. Before we can remove the LCD and digitizer, we have to remove the vibrator assembly. This is held in place with two small Phillips head screws. One will be short and one will be long. The longer screw will be towards the inside. Next, we'll remove the four corner screws and loosen the three screws on each side so as not to lose the washers below them. Typically 2 to 2.5 turns should be enough to loosen these screws without causing them to come out of socket. This will prevent you from losing the small washers. Do not worry, however, if they do come out, they are easily replaceable, but you do need to get those washers and put them in place as well. Now, for the screws in the corner. For the lower corner, you do not have to remove the dot cable, as you should have clearance to pull the screw out. You also want to be careful as you unscrew so as not to damage the small components in the base. Now, we're ready to remove LCD and digitizer assembly. Using a flat probe tool, gently pry on all sides to separate the LCD and digitizer. Then, carefully slide the cables so they come out of the midboard. This may take a little work, but you want to be careful not to tear these cables. Once you've pressed the cables through, the midboard and the LCD and digitizer assembly should simply come apart. You should notice that on the back of your LCD and digitizer assembly, there may be some adhesive left over. You may see some of the same on the midboard. On the midboard, you will see the front-facing camera, the earpiece speaker assembly, the ambient light sensor, and a noise-canceling microphone. On the base, you can see the home button. On the back side, you'll see the dock connector, the dock connector cable, and the home button ribbon assembly. On the top, you'll see the cables that connect the front-facing camera, the earpiece speaker, and the volume rocker switch. We will not be disassembling these as the cables are very delicate. If you need them disassembled, please send them in for a professional to take care of. And this concludes the iPhone 4